Well, everybody, thank you for coming. We're calling this class Jumpstart Your Business, and officially for PTG businesses, it is sponsored by the Gazelle Network. I run two companies. I run the Well Loved Piano Company, which is a piano service, tuning, rebuilding, repair company in the Southeast. We've got locations in Raleigh, Charlotte, and Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. So I have about 4 or 5 technicians that work with me, and I'm one of them as well. I love being out in the field. I love doing that. I'm also the owner of the company, and that limits how much time I can be in the field. I had a decision to make a long time ago, actually about 8 years ago, to really ask the question, what do I want to do with my career? And do I want to be a one-man show? And I answered it with, well, I have a lot of passion to mentor and to train and to do that, so how am I going to allocate that? And I wanted to try to allocate it on a slightly larger scale than just one-on-one. So 8 years ago, we started laying the foundation to try to make that happen. And I would say I'm still not where I want to be, but we're really working towards that, and I've got a great team of folks. I am going to talk through some topics, and I'm going to try to hit the topics that I really wish somebody had given me 15 years ago. I ran around in circles, chasing my tail, banging my head on the wall for a lot of years before I really started to click. And to be honest, I feel like it started to click about 6 months ago. So I've been throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to see what sticks, and it's finally like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on the things that stick. So I'm going to talk through some topics, but I also really want to make sure that I am as personal as possible, because each of you are in very different places with your business. So show of hands, self-employed, majority of the room. How many of you are viably employed and you have a decent revenue stream right now? How many of you are wondering how to get a revenue stream going? Okay, a couple of people, right? How many of you have been in business for a long time and you're relocating to a new market and you're kind of wondering how to start over? All right, we have some folks in there. How many folks have been spinning your wheels for a long time wondering how to get going and you still feel like you need to jumpstart your business? We have everybody in here, and each of your needs are actually really, really different. I don't have time in the class to cover the details of each of those, but I want you to know that I'm going to be available, so feel free to come talk to me. And I'm going to try to make this as specific as possible. So as I'm teaching, if you want to go more in depth with the topic, ask. I might punt till later if it's only applicable to a very small group, but we'll go with the class, and I want each of you to really get something out of it. The topics, I am a whiteboard guy, so we've got scratch pads here. I want to talk about these general topics and the things that I wish I had known, and intermixed in there, I'm sure you'll have questions and we'll be able to engage with the material. So number 1, organize, right? You can't tune a piano without a tuning lever, but if you don't know where your tuning lever is, that's just as big of a problem, all right? I hear so many technicians say, oh, well, you know what, I'm small right now, I only have X number of clients, I'll get organized when I get older. No, you won't, all right? You're fooling yourself. You're building habits now that you're going to carry in 10, 15 years later. You're going to regret it, I promise. How many of you are able to collect email addresses without being organized? Cell phone numbers without being organized? How many of you are able to know when your pianos are due for service without being organized? It's impossible. And there are a lot of tools out there to organize your business. You really need to find one that jives with you and your business and is flexible, okay? I'm sure some of you could have questions about that, so we will cover that in more detail. Micro-branding. How many of you are in this day and age and you're just like, there are so many media options, like how do I cut through all the noise, right? It's getting really difficult. Back in the day, people talk about the yellow pages and how the yellow pages are dead. Well, they worked because they were 80% of where people went. It was one source. If you weren't there, you were dead. But now, they're one of literally hundreds of options for people to get information. Google's the biggest, Facebook is the second biggest, and then you have things like Yelp and social media and Instagram and all these other accounts, and you make your head spin. Okay? We're in a totally different age. So starting your business today, in a way, is harder than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. At the same time, the industry has changed. Back in the day, how many of you hear older techs say, oh yeah, I had 5 dealerships in the area and I'd bounce from one to one and they'd always give me a lot of tunings and I built my business that way. That doesn't happen anymore. Okay? You're lucky to have one good dealer, maybe a handful of struggling dealers. Okay? Dealers, I forgot to put that on the list. So, you know, really what I want to say about dealers is, Morgan, do you have enough work to support a second technician right now?
Close.
Close? Okay, great. Who doesn't? All right. I would like to work for you. Will you hire me?
Not at this moment. I don't have the revenue stream to support anybody but myself.
I know, but I do really good work.
Doesn't matter. I need more money to pay you.
Well, that's fine. When I come, it's going to help you sell more work.
Talk to me in a year.
How many dealers say, talk to me later? You are an expense on a business that is struggling to be profitable. The good dealers will figure out how. When you're a young blood and you walk into the dealer and you say, I want to do floor tunings, you're an expense. You say, I want to do your sales tunings, I want to do your after delivery tunings, you are an expense. So how do you get around that? A lot of work.
You have to show the dealer that you're actually not an expense, but you're what's the word?
An asset.
An asset.
Yeah. That's really difficult to do, and it takes a lot of time to build that relationship. It might take 5, 10 years. It might take a year. It might take giving more free work than you can give right now. Okay? So that's a big issue. So you can't rely on that, but there are ways around it. But micro branding, when you are a young company, start small. Tiny market, tiny budget. A good example of a micro brand are people you know. Okay? That's where you start. Start on Facebook, start inviting people you know. Now you got to get outside of that circle, and you can't rely on those people to tell their friends. Why? Because when you need something, do you call your friend or go to Google?
Google.
You go to Google. Do you call your friend or get on Facebook and see what if other people have liked this business? You've researched businesses. You go to their Facebook page. How many of you see that your friend Sally likes that business? You see that, but you don't talk to Sally. So in order to get outside of that circle of the people that you know, you have to be able to micro brand with these tools that are available. The way that you do that is online reviews. How many of you have a great method for getting a lot of online reviews? No? All right, volunteer. Morgan. Come on. Thanks for volunteering. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, Morgan, we are at the appointment. Do you ask for online reviews? I'll step out of the light a little bit.
I do not.
You don't ask for online reviews. Do you have online reviews?
I do.
You do. How many?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. How long did it take you to get 6 or 7?
About a year.
About a year. How many pianos have you tuned in that time?
Hundreds.
100. So you're getting a couple percent return. Okay. What would you do with 100 or 200 online reviews?
I'd cry a little bit, probably.
Good tears or bad tears?
Good tears.
Assuming they're all good reviews, let's be honest, okay? 100 bad reviews and you would be crying. All right, well, I guarantee what's gonna happen if you get 100 to 200 reviews, your phone's gonna ring off the hook.
Yeah.
Now, what's the person with the most reviews in your area on Google? How many do they have?
Maybe 10.
10. Well, in 3 weeks, you can be the review leader. Your phone will start ringing off the hook. The question is, how do you get him? He's tuned hundreds of pianos. He has 6 reviews. This is everybody I talk to. So, number 1, you ask. So great. How in the world, where would you ask me for a review? In the course of the appointment?
At the end.
At the end. Okay, so let's ad-lib here. You're at the end of the appointment.
Okay.
Ask me for a review.
Mr. Barnes, if you're happy with the service you got today, I appreciate the review on Google, Facebook, Yelp, Internet.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, you did good service. Now, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I'm not giving him a review.
No.
I'm not. You're gonna get the same 6% out of the hundreds of people right there. What did you do wrong?
You didn't have to tell them how.
I didn't tell you how.
You didn't tell me how.
You didn't ask for it.
You didn't ask for it. You told me about Yelp and Google, and you alluded to it, but you didn't like connect with me.
Okay.
You did not maintain eye contact.
Okay.
Now, I understand you're nervous up here, but let's be honest. I was staring in your eyes, and you connected with me one time, and you glanced 4 other times elsewhere. You don't want the review. So, let's try something else. You're writing a check, you're swiping the card. Morgan, would you mind signing here? Right? You sign there, put it away, pack up your tools, you're walking towards the door, you're about to hit the door. You turn around and say, Morgan, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Where are my eyes?
Probably.
I am staring at you until you answer. What did I do after I asked you if you do me a favor?
Waited.
I shut up.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing to do. So, Morgan, would you do me a favor?
Sure.
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
We have built our business on online reviews, and that is critical in this day and age to survive. Google loves to have fresh reviews, and they promote us more and help us grow our business when we have fresh reviews. Would you mind giving me a Google, Yelp, or Facebook review?
Sure. Great.
Great. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Are you giving me a review?
I am.
No, you're not. 20% of the time you are.
Okay.
All right, that's not enough. What do I need to do to get you to give a review?
Just show me how.
I need to show you how. Am I going to pull out my phone and teach you how to give an online review? Right here, right now? No. Nobody has that time. Kids need to get taken to school, summer camp, whatever. A lot of times they've already given you the check. They're waiting for you to get out the door, right? This is not the time to teach them to give you a review. So you just need to follow up with them. So later that night, that's not where I end. I say, Morgan, would you give me an online Google, Yelp, whatever review? And you say, absolutely, I would love to. I say, great. As I'm shaking your hand, I'm looking you straight in the eye, and I say, I will email you instructions. I'd appreciate it. That's how I feed my family. I'm not lying. I have 4 kids. 3 of them are under 18 months right now. I got a lot of diapers and a lot of food to shovel over there, okay? Now, I emailed them a request saying, here is a link, click here. Does it send them straight to Google? No. It sends them to my website, Barnes Piano, or the Well-Loved Piano Company.com/reviews. It's a private link. You can't find it unless you're a customer, unless I share it with you. And it helps you, and it gives you instructions for how to give a Google review, a Yelp review, and all that stuff. Pick your poison. I don't care. Now, are you going to give me a review if I send you that email?
Maybe.
Well, then you're suspicious now. The truth is, maybe if you remember to give the review or the email, are you going to remember to copy and paste that email in your phone?
Not all of them.
No, you need that email automated, so it's like clockwork, like boom. So when I do my appointments and they say yes, I've already booked the next appointment and I hit a button and the email goes out right then and there with the link. Now, Ed Tomlinson does something that I love and I just don't have time to do. He texts them personally later that night at 7 p.m., right before they go to bed and after the kids are in bed, saying, hey, just wanted to follow up and make sure you remembered. Thank you so much. That's brilliant. All right? That's brilliant. So, if you email them, if you text them, are you going to get a review? Yes, about 30% of the time. How many pianos did you tune last year?
400.
400. You should have 200-ish. No, that's 50%. Wow, twin brain.
450.
Yeah, about 150 reviews right now. That is 10 times the next guy. That was from last year.
Yeah.
I have over 600 reviews scattered throughout the web. Okay? It's really easy to do it this way. Now, if you really want to kill it, follow up again. Right? A week later if they don't do it. Or just, actually, you're not going to be able to track whether they did or didn't. So just say, hey, if you forgot, I'd appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Okay? There are actually some services out there that help you do this. Some of them are pricey. But you can do this manually. And when you're young, you don't need a pricey service. Do it by hand. You're tuning 5 pianos a week. But you won't be for long. Give them a hand. Thank you so much. Now, some some of you are gonna think that you can go out there and get reviews without doing all of that. I promise you, you can't. So, skill gaps. How many of you are waiting for me to talk to you about your website? Anybody? Yeah, you're kind of wondering how to build it? Yeah, a couple of people in here. So, that's way down here on the importance list. Skill gaps. How many of you feel like you understand and know everything that you need to know? Not many, right? This is a class for young technicians. So how many of you feel like you're intimidated talking about work you don't understand how to do? Anybody? I'm seeing heads. Let's show some hands here. Okay. That's like a lot of people here. I felt that way. It's really hard to sell work that you don't understand how to do. And when you get into the technicalities of it, it's really difficult because all of a sudden what you don't know shows up. Even if the client doesn't know the technicality of it, they can sense it in you. So you have to sell jobs in a way that helps you to do this without being worried about the technicalities of it. Now right now, how many of you know how to tune? Again, a show of hands. How many of you feel like you're really proficient? You're not actually struggling with stability and temperaments and things like that. Great. Regulation, how many of you are proficient at this? Okay, couple. All right. How many of you feel like you don't even know how to assess how much regulation is needed? Y'all are deceiving yourself. If you're young technicians and you're not raising your hand, you're touching the tip of the iceberg. If you think you're evaluating the piano like a professional who's been doing this for 15, 20 years, you're not. You're just seeing the worst of the worst, but I guarantee you there's 18 things below that you should be addressing that you're missing. Now, that's not a bad thing. You're a young tech. You just don't have the experience. But that is a limiting factor for you. That's something you have to overcome. That's difficult. So, voicing. How many of you feel like you have a really good grasp of voicing? Even fewer of us, right? So if you're walking into a client's home and you're needing to assess the touch, the tone, and the tuning, most of you hardly have 30% of the skills that you need. Some of you have 40%. That's a 60% gap. There's a 60% skill gap in this room. You need to solve that. Now, I guarantee you, if you wait to learn how to tune, voice, and regulate, you can close that gap. But it's also going to take 10, 15 years. So do you want to wait 15 years until you're full-time? No. You need to do that now. Now, you're at a conference. Good job. I hope you're taking voicing regulating classes. That causes you to scramble your brain and you're going, what in the world's going on? But you need to build a network of other technicians in your area who are willing to fill in this gap. The only problem is, what if I walk up to a piano that needs 15 hours of voicing and regulation and tuning? And I walk up and say, Sally, your piano's in really decent shape. It only needs a couple hours of voicing and regulation. And you can't do it, but you got a guy who can. And you say, Sally, that's gonna cost you X $100. Great. And then you go to your guy and he goes, hey, Steve, I just sold a voicing and regulation job, right? Would you mind helping me with it in the shop? Or would you mind, can I actually have you go to my client's house and take care of it? And you just tell your client, I'm gonna send my guy to come voice and regulate your piano. You have a relationship and he just knows that's your client. That can happen. The only problem is, what if you call Steve and Steve goes, okay, great, well tell me what's wrong with it. They're like, man, the dynamics of it, it barely gets below mezzo forte. And so I think it just needs a couple hours of voice and regulation and I can pay you X $100. He goes, dude, that's 2 days worth of work. Whoops. You just sold the job and now you're up a creek, okay? So you actually need to understand how to evaluate a piano. How many of you could figure out how to evaluate a piano well in the next 2 weeks? With the right instruction, you could. And you might not nail it at 15 hours of work, but you'd probably do 13 and you could eat a couple of hours. But at least when you call Steve, you say, Steve, I can pay you your full rate and I built in a profit margin for me. And if I got the hours wrong, tell me what I got wrong so I can do it better next time. You didn't make money that time, but your profit margin ate up the mistake, but next time you can. You could actually be selling voicing and high-end voicing and regulation as a technician 1 week into the business if you develop the right relationships and you understand how to evaluate a piano. Same goes for voicing. 2 people said they really understood voicing in this class. 92% of you don't. It's really hard to evaluate what is the musical potential of this piano if you don't understand voicing. It's going to take you years to develop the skills to properly voice that piano. It's going to take hundreds of hours of voicing, but it's going to take minimal hours of learning how to listen to the piano, of learning how to evaluate the tone, of learning how to evaluate the dynamic range, learning how to assess whether a hammer is dead or not. Those skills can be learned quickly. Voicing, that takes time. So you need to devote your time not necessarily to learning how to regulate it first. You need to learn how to evaluate touch. That takes a couple of weeks, a couple of months, depending on how much time you do it with the right instructor. I could probably have you assessing a regulation in about a week, where you're like getting 80% of it. Okay, it's not rocket science, but teaching you to regulate efficiently, that's going to take a lot of time. Voicing, give me an afternoon. I bet I could improve your voicing listening skills really quickly. Okay, so within a couple of weeks, you got the skills to assess, you just don't have the skills to execute. If you sell a voicing or regulation job without the skills to assess, I'm sorry, you're going to be up a creek. It's going to damage your reputation. But if you can assess properly and you have a guy who can, your guy can come do it, you can actually make money at that, not knowing how to regulate your voice, and your clients are going to be thrilled. And you don't have to wait 15 years to get your business off the ground. Cultivate relationships. Same goes for rebuilding. You need rebuilders in your network. How many of you understand the nuances of belly work? One person, right? You need a belly man. You need a belly man, okay? Go find a belly man. There's a great one, Dale Irwin, up in the Northwest. There's others, Bull Duke, up in Canada, right? They're around. They're actually out in the exhibit hall right now. Go talk to a belly man. Ask them how to evaluate the piano's tone, how to evaluate the piano's soundboard. What do you look for? How do you measure crown? You can learn those things very quickly. You can't learn how to install a soundboard quickly, but go learn how to evaluate it properly. Stringing. How many of you understand when a bass string is dead? What's the expectancy of it, right? Some of you. That's a common one, right? Go talk to the stringers. Go learn how to evaluate it first. Once you've evaluated it, then start focusing on learning how to do it. But build them into your network. You have a belly man. You have a stringer. Voicing and regulation. Find a master technician who can do those things at a really high level. Okay? Now, pricing. We're going to cover that in a minute. How about selling the work? Let's assume that in the next couple of months, you go out and you learn how to evaluate, you learn how to listen to a piano, you already know how to assess the tuning, and your gaps are only voicing and regulation and rebuilding, okay? So you go out and you learn how to assess that, and you're actually doing really good. You're getting like 80% out of 100, you're decent. Selling the work is a whole different thing. How many of you heard, well, I'm not a concert pianist, so just give me a tuning? Everybody. My daughter's just starting lessons. She's a beginner. She doesn't need all that stuff. Just do a tuning, even though it's a half step flat. Anybody? Yeah. How many of you have tried to talk about voicing and regulation, even though you feel like there's a skill gap? Anybody? Are you trying to talk about these things with clients? How easy is it to get them to commit to do the work like that? You need to be able to walk into the client's home and very quickly evaluate the tuning, the touch, and the tone of any piano. This begs the question, does a spinet have the same musical potential as a concert grand? No.
No.
Does it have the same enjoyment potential?
Yes.
Yes. So what potential are you talking about? Does an acrosonic have the same musical potential of a wordless or spinet?
Enjoyment potential?
They're not far off. They might be the same. How about a 6-foot grand versus a U3? Are they different?
They're different, but no.
Yeah, every single piano is built for a different level of musical potential. Now, does the factory optimize that potential when it rolls out the gate?
No.
No. You can take a brand new piano and optimize its potential. Do clients understand that?
No.
No, they think they buy a new piano and that is as good as it's going to get. And then what happens? They tune it, they might not. Over time, it deteriorates and it goes on this constant downhill slide until you're called out 30 years later. And you need to explain to them that it needs more than just a tuning. It's lost its touch and tone. And they say, I'm not a concert pianist, I'm just a beginner, just tune the piano. I was sick and tired of hearing that.
Yeah.
I've heard it for 15 years, and I kept banging my head against the wall. There's gotta be a way to get around this. Do you know how to get around it? You sidestep it. Because if you tell them your piano needs more than a tuning, they see expense, but they don't understand the value of it. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna stonewall because they don't understand it, and they're gonna say no. So you have to step around and talk to them right here. You know that if you talk to them about it, they are going to stonewall. And it's because of you, not them. You're doing a pretty crummy job teaching them about their piano if they're stonewalling. All right, so how do you do that? On a napkin. Now, how many of you have a really cool estimating software? Anybody? Oh, no, okay. Let's just suffice to say they're out there, all right? So, come talk to me afterwards if you want kind of the specifics, and we can put those in the notes for the video. But here is really what you need to do. Now, if you have an estimating software, let's actually fast forward here. What happens to a client if you walk up to them, they bought a tuning, they're expecting a tuning, and you walk in and go, it needs tuning, but it also needs... Now, these are necessary, but these are like for the extreme, and these, actually, no, I should probably just like tell you all of it's necessary. Let's just do that, let's nix that. All of this is necessary, and this is $20,000. This is a Steinway B, that's a deal. Oh, okay, great. Clients use $25,000. Do they understand this? No. Do you have the time to understand it? Their attention is 20 seconds. No. Do you have the time and the technical knowledge and being steeped in the history of doing hundreds of rebuilds and regulations to get into the mire of the technicalities between the two? No. So, you've got a problem. Your skill gap is in the way of even being able to do this. So how do you sell that job without that? Well, first let me say, you need to start pressing really quickly towards understanding every line item on this list. There is no shortcut here. You are not going to be able to do this if you are not committed to learning the nuances there. Go do it, okay? Push hard on your education, you need it, all right? But don't let that stop you from selling the rebuilding job today. So, how do you get through it? Well, what you do, you grab a napkin. You can do this on a card. I actually had these cards printed for my company, and it's very simple. On this side, we have a concert pianist. On this side, we have never used, okay? I was sick and tired of hearing I'm not a concert pianist. If I'm at a U3, okay, a Yamaha U3, it's a good upright piano. If I'm telling that client that you need to tune, regulate, and voice that piano, am I talking about concert level work for the symphony? No, I'm talking about U3 level voicing, regulation, and tuning. Not concert level, but what does every client say? Oh, I don't need that stuff because I'm not a concert pianist. I'm not a professional. Well, I wasn't talking about being a professional. I'm talking about being an intermediate student. You need these things. They weren't connecting it, right? Or I'm a beginner student. I don't need all that stuff, right? So you're saying this piano needs a lot of work, and they say, no, just do the bare minimum. You're gonna get hit with that every single day out of the week. So what you need to do is you need to educate your client. You need to do it quickly. You need to do it efficiently, and you need to have the skills to be able to assess it so you're confident in that. So we covered assessing it. Now you're confident in being able to stand behind the number you're going to give them. So you need to be able to very quickly and efficiently create an estimate. In our company, we call these condition reports. We're evaluating the piano, and we have a checklist. I walk up to the piano, I go, this piano needs check, 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 check. And on regulation, I say check. By default, there's a couple of hours in there, but I've learned how to evaluate the piano and understand how many hours it's going to take, and I adjust it. So at the bottom of that, I have a price, right? Let's just X, 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 X. Now this could be $500, that could be $20,000. I do not care. This is what this piano needs to maximize its musical potential. Do I care if it is a beginner student? Yes, I do. Because I'm not going to be a used car salesman and push people services that they don't need. I do care. But am I qualified to answer the question, you care about your piano only this much? No. I don't know their bank account. I don't know their situation. I don't know how much they value this piano. I don't know if they would rather have an old antique or a brand new piano. I don't know if piano lessons are like the hope of the existence of this parent. Like, my daughter will be a pianist or else I am a failure. Or it's like, oh yeah, she does that and soccer and this and that and that, I could give or take. I don't know that. Now, I can get really good at asking the right questions ahead of time, but it's kind of hard if you walk into the client's house and you're like, hey Morgan, good to meet you. You know, this is the first time I've seen your piano, and, you know, I was just kind of wondering, how long have you had the piano?
5 years.
5 years, great. Who plays the piano? You, your kids? Tell me about it.
Some of my kids.
Oh, your kids, okay. How are they a beginner? Are they advanced? Are they a concert level musician?
I don't really know. Husband takes care of it.
Okay, well, can I get the husband on the phone? I really need to know this to be able to evaluate the piano. So you're not going to call your husband, are you? Not actually, who knows, right? Okay, well, I'm at a loss now because I don't have the information I need to be able to sell this or to offer you the services that you actually need. That will happen every day of the week. You might get really good at reading the room, right? There are other classes talk about walk in the room, look at everything. You can get good at that, but you will always have an information gap. You cannot close that gap. There's one person who can tell you everything, and it's the client, but are they going to? No, right? They're a little apprehensive here. If you start asking that, you're like, wait a minute, are you trying to sell me concert level services? Did you feel that? Your wall went up before I even evaluated the piano. That happens every single day. So, how about this? Hey Morgan, good to meet you. And you walk into the room, I small talk, you know, hey, you know, tell me about your piano. When did you get it?
5 years ago.
Okay, great. And now, are you the musician, or your kids play?
Kids.
That's great. How old are they?
6 and 18.
That's awesome. I have a 6-year-old and an 18-month-old, twins and a 5-month-old. So I'm on the front end of parenting. Good to see that you actually survived, because I'm kind of questioning whether I will right now. Well, anyway, this is the first time I've seen your piano. I would just like a couple of minutes to evaluate it, just to kind of see what we're up against today, and I'll be happy to answer any questions with you and just kind of talk about it. But let me get started, and would you mind getting me a glass of ice water? Can I trouble you for a glass of ice water?
No problem.
You go to the kitchen, I get to work. Now, do you feel like I'm going to sell you services you don't need?
No.
No. Am I a nice guy?
Yeah.
Do you know something about me?
Yeah.
Do I know something about you? Do we have a relationship? Did I look at you in the eye when I was talking? Learn that trick. All right? It happens that fast. Now, I have a rapport, and I'm about to show them something no technician has ever showed them, I guarantee you. Faster. I'm going to show you something no technician has ever showed them before, but every technician has tried. That's the key. All right? I evaluate the piano. I evaluate the touch. I evaluate the tone. I can do this without touching a tool. The only thing I need to do is to check the torque on the pin block. Now, do I touch my tools? Yes, but very minimally. Right? I do what's very minimal. I assess the sustain, I assess the bridge, I assess the soundboard, the action, the touch, the voicing, the tuning, and figure out where it's at and what I'm up against. Now, am I going to go back and say, it needs a tuning, it needs a pitch raise, it needs this repair, it needs regulation, it needs voicing, it needs this, it needs this. Now, I want to talk to you about what a tuning is, what this is, what this is. No. They're going to glaze over and you're going to lose them. Okay, so what I do is I simply, on my card, say, there, we're at a Steinway M. That was an instrument built for an advancing level to professional level musician in their home. But this M is from 1910. It's been tuned occasionally, and it's in rough shape. It is currently performing at this level. Why? Dynamic range. I play the piano, and I start out mezzo forte. I build up to fortissimo. Why mezzo forte? Why start there? That's the only thing I can do to get most pianists to play. Start there, build up, go to fortissimo, and very consistently, I'm not talking about this isn't like 5th gear, 4th gear, 3rd gear, 2nd gear, 1st gear. This is like an 18-wheeler. It's like 20th gear, 19th gear, 18th gear, 17, 16. Build up to fortissimo and very consistently, very slowly start playing softer and softer and softer and softer. What am I interested in?
The dynamics.
Yeah, I'm interested in where does it stop playing, right? Does it stop at forte? Does it stop at mezzo forte? Does it stop at mezzo piano? Does it stop at piano? Does it stop at pianissimo? Or does it stop at like pianissimo with the una quarta pedal shifted? Where does the touch stop?
45 minutes.
Okay, great. You just learned how to evaluate the touch on the piano without knowing a lick about regulation. That's all it takes. Do that up and down the entire piano. Do it in the bass, do it in the middle, do it in the treble. If you play a song, go up, go down. It's that easy. If you don't, scales. I don't care what it is. Hit every note on the piano and pay attention to the touch. You will become a master assessor of the touch of a piano by just looking at the dynamics and asking, where does it stop? Does a beginner student need dynamic range? Does a beginner student need pianissimo to fortissimo? No. Does a beginner need piano? Yeah. Why? They're working 2 to 3 times as hard to get the piano to function. So my bar for a beginner student is piano. If I achieve piano on the instrument, great. This is actually in good shape. We're north of here. But if not, I'm south of there. So next, voicing. Now I actually do this simultaneously because I'm used to it. But if you're not, you need to actually play scales consistently at a set volume, which is really hard to do if the regulation is all over the map. You get good at it. Play it. Work with it. If you have questions, pull out a voicing tool, play with a hammer, see what you can get. I'm asking myself, what's the musical potential of this hammer? Pluck the sustain up in the 6th octave. Play the notes in the 6th octave. Right? Is the problem in the hammer or the sustain? If your sustain is 12 seconds and you play the note and the sustain is 8 seconds, the hammer's the problem. If you pluck the note and it's 6 seconds sustain, and you play the note and the sustain is 6 seconds, the problem is in minor voicing. Okay? It's just the difference between the two. But if you pluck a sustain and you get 10 seconds and you play it and you get 3, you need new hammers or you need substantial voicing on that piano. Now you know how to assess the voicing. That's going to copy over through the rest of the piano, but you'll get the idea pretty quick. So what do? I pull out a voicing tube very, very quickly. I'll kind of voice a few things. I want to know what I can get out of it, how much I can improve it, where's the upper cap, is there a limit? I've checked the soundboard, the bridge, and all that stuff. And listen to it, but the sustain is all you really need. Pluck it, just make sure there's no cracks in the soundboard. That's checking the belly. That's all you need. So I walk in, I pluck, 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 listen, count, play the notes, I'm done. I can evaluate this piano now. Okay? I've evaluated the voicing. Now, assuming we got piano and we're somewhere up here, but the voicing is just all over the map. Bright as can be, not fun to play. Fun to play is the key. Is that suitable for a beginner student? I'm getting question marks. Is it? Nobody knows. Yes, no, everybody will argue you to the end of the earth and back about whether or not it is. But the reality is that it's a gray area. Okay? Is it going to be more enjoyable to play if it was consistent?
Sure.
Yeah. Is it going to be less enjoyable to play if it's inconsistent? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it going to be harder for the student to maintain consistency of tone if it's inconsistent?
Yeah.
Yes. These aren't trick questions, right? Is it going to be easier if it's consistent?
Yeah.
Yes. So if the regulation is all the way down here because of it's not even achieving piano, but you can achieve consistency of tone, well, let's move the needle a little bit. But because of touch, it can't go above here because one thing is below there. All right, I think you're tracking with me here? All right, so you just evaluated the piano, and I guarantee you, no technician is doing tuning, voicing, and regulating every time they tune a 100-year-old instrument. If this is a 100-year-old or 80-year-old Steinway, and it hasn't been maintained in a university or a concert hall, the voicing is as bad as the regulation, let's be honest. So, I now have piano was built for this level of performance. It's now performing at this level. Do you think your client can understand that? That gap is right there. That is actually really understandable, really clear. Can they understand that with you saying like 5 words? Yeah, it's kind of amazing to watch. I guarantee if you go through your list of what the piano needs, they're going to say, I'm not a concert pianist, I'm not a beginner, I don't need that, just tune the piano, and why does it need all of that? I don't understand it. What is voicing? What is regulation? You're going to get caught in the mire of everything. All right, but if you do this, you're going to say, listen, Sally, or actually Morgan, I'm picking on you today. All right, Morgan, great. Well, can you come back in the room? I would like to talk to you about your piano. So, Morgan, what we have a Steinway M. Now, your Steinway was built in 1910, and it was actually built by a company that had really good manufacturing standards and has produced some of the best pianos in the world. And it was built for an advancing to professional level musician. Their eyes are going to light up right now. Is this true?
Yeah. Yes.
I'm not a used car salesman, I'm being honest. It was built for this level of musician. You have a really good piano. How many of you are afraid of saying you have a really good piano because it needs a lot of work? You kind of feel like you need to say you have a really meaty piano, okay? Your potential is right here. That's all I need to say. You get it? Absolutely. Now, am I going to jump right in and go, but it's performing right there? No, I wouldn't recommend it. You won't get anywhere. Because it's kind of like saying, hey, Morgan, great. Oh, look, is this John, your son? Oh, John, you have so much potential. Oh, that face is ugly. You're not getting anywhere in life, buddy. Just do plastic surgery today. Hey, Morgan, you're my friend. Oh, no, you're not. Right? That's what that's like. It's a punch to the gut. So, Morgan, you have a piano with this level of musical potential built by a company that has really good manufacturing standards. But do you know one of the first things I noticed about your piano? Before they can think, aside from being out of tune, you expect that it's out of tune. You expect me to say that. So if I say, you know what I first noticed about your piano? You're thinking I'm going to say, wow, it's really bad. I'm not. That's beside the point. So I'm going to say, Morgan, the first thing I noticed about your piano, aside from being out of tune, I'm dismissing it like it's the least of our worries. It's important, but it's now on the side table. And now they're like, oh, shoot. I got a bigger problem than I need. And their attention focuses on you and what you're about to say. I guarantee it. If you were looking in their eye, you might have had part of their attention. You're going to have their full attention right now. It's almost like they're letting everything else in their brain go, and they're about to really assess what you're going to say. And they're wondering why they're now on the other side of their wall. They want to know what you're going to say. And they're like, normally I'm putting the wall up, but I don't know why. I want to hear what you have to say. That wall is way over there. You already got around it. We haven't even talked price. So, built for this, the first thing I noticed, aside from it being out of tune, is that it really lacks the dynamic range and touch and tone that I would expect of a piano of this caliber. That's your sales pitch. You can write that line down. If you can't write fast enough, ask me at the booth later, and I will write it down for you. Your piano lacks the dynamic range that I would expect of a piano of this caliber. Now, they're going to get really concerned now. They're going to look you in the eye, you're looking them in the eye. I need your attention, Morgan, can you stop writing? They're going to look concerned. Are they going to retreat behind that wall? No. They want to know how to solve it. It's kind of like a doctor. Jimmy just went in for his well check, and he says, Morgan, John, your son, has really great potential in life. He could be, the next, Mark Zuckerberg, whatever. But we just found terminal cancer. I'm really sorry to hear that. You're sad. You're concerned. Do you want to solve the problem?
I do.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Your piano was built for this level of potential, but one of the first things I noticed as a professional is that when I sat down to play, it lacks the dynamic range. Aside from being out of tune, it lacks the dynamic range I would expect of a piano of that caliber. Now, you're sad. Are you sad about your piano? Maybe if it's sentimental. What are you more sad about? Sally. Now, what does this mean? Well, Morgan, what it means is that you and Sally are having to work harder to enjoy this instrument. You're having to work 2 to 3 times as hard to get the musical touch and tone out of this piano. You can achieve it. You're just working really hard, and you shouldn't have to. Are you tracking with me? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Are there any questions in your mind? Other than, how do I solve this problem? Right? Now, how do you solve it? Great, I'm glad you asked. I'm the professional. You called me for a reason. You called me because I'm a professional. I just showed you something every technician has tried to show you for the last 30 years. If they say anything, do you know what they're going to say? You know what? I had a guy out here 10 years ago, back when we lived in Philly, and he mentioned that my piano was needing something. I didn't really understand what he was talking about. I wanted to do it, and life got in the way. Technicians try to talk about this every single day. Every tech who's talked about this becomes validated in their mind. You're not talking bad about them. They're thinking, he tried to tell me, he just didn't show me. Now, what if they had a technician who only came in, tuned the piano, and left and never talked about it? What do they think about that person?
Not professional.
He's not as good as you. Did you have to say that? No. They draw that conclusion on their own. So all you have to say is, performance potential here, aside from being out of tune, lacks the touch and tone necessary or that I would expect of this caliber of an instrument. And what that means is it's going to be 2 to 3 times as hard to play this instrument. Now, my sales pitch is done. What have I not talked about?
Price. The price.
How many of you are concerned about the price right now? Okay. Do you know that your client already bought the service or didn't? I could say $20,000, and if they decided to buy it, they would, within reason. I could say $5 to somebody who decided that's not important to them. Will they buy it?
No.
No. Price is irrelevant at this point. If you do this, you're there. You've already sold, and you can tell if you sold it or not. Now, maybe they have some additional questions they need answered, but do they want, if they're asking questions to clarify, do they want to buy it?
Yes.
You just got an internal motivator activated. They now want what you're about to sell. You cannot make that happen. And I just did it without telling you how much it's going to be. So, okay. Morgan, let's see here, where are we at? What that means is it's going to be, really hard, 2 to 3 times as hard for Sally to play your piano. And really what I need to know from you is how you want to address this. Because to be honest, we can take care of everything this piano needs. Now, I've already created my automated checklist. I know the value. But we're talking about $8,000 worth of work. And a lot of time both in the shop and really getting this up to speed. What I need to know from you is, how do you want to handle this? And then I'm going to back up to what I talked about with reviews. What do I say next?
Nothing.
Nothing. Shut up. I want to know how you want to handle this. So Morgan, I can take care of all of this for you, but we're talking like $8,000 worth of work. And this piano new would sell for like $80,000. I just need to know how you want to handle this. And that's what they're going to do. They're thinking. You know what they're asking? I already want to. They're asking, do I have that money in the bank? If yes, what's their next question?
How long?
How long is it going to take? You already made the sale. If they don't have the money in the bank, what's their next question going to be?
What else?
Do we have to do?
Yeah. What next? Right now. What do we do now?
Are they going to do something? Yeah. Are they going to do something more than tuning?
Yeah.
How much are they going to do?
Don't know yet.
We do. as much as their budget can sustain right now. So, this is where it goes in two directions. The people with the money are going to do the work. People without the money or limited funds are going to find a way to make it work if they can, and if not, they're going to ask for something less. Because do they want Sally to have the best potential possible for her education? Every parent does. Do they want potential for their musical education? Yes. I had a lady once ask me, she was justifying it, she said, is that why sometimes I can't get the notes to play?
Right.
Yes! I was like, I've been trying to get people to ask that forever, and said they always say, no, just do a tuning, it'll be fine. She always had that problem. She never told me until I did this. So, you're gonna go in one of two directions. Now, if you go this direction, it's easy. They do all of it, right? Done. Let's make it happen. You have rebuilders in your network, you have action regulators, you have voicers, and as you get better as a technician, I bet you can do a better and better and better and better job doing it yourself and making a lot more money because you're not having to scrape a little bit of profit off. You get to keep all of it. Great, that's wonderful. If they don't, well, how do we handle that? Well, where do you want to get? If Sally is a beginner student, right here, do you want to get the piano to right there? Yes, no?
Minimum.
At a minimum, that's the key. Does Sally have musical potential to tap right here? No. So if she's doing beginner level music, she's going to stay at a beginner. Is she going to progress in her lessons? No. Is she going to enjoy lessons? Nowhere near as much. Does she know this? She complains every day, but she can't vocalize why. Whose fault is it? Well, in a way, nobody's, but in a way, it's the parents. They made a bad choice. That's not our fault, but we're educating them about it. So we want to try to get the piano as far above Sally as their budget will allow. Now, if they tell me how much to get to right there, I say the thing to consider is we can get it there. That gives no upward potential for her to grow as a musician. She's going to remain as a beginner student because the piano is limiting her. And we could probably get there for around $1,500 to $1,800, right? Whatever the services are. I'm allowed to talk about prices in this way because it's not the actual services. These are just figurative numbers, right? This is a subset, so we could get here for $1,500 to $1,800. But if you wanted to give Sally a little bit of cap space to be able to improve as a musician, like we could probably get it like up into this range, and we could do that for around $3,000. So these are your options. What would you like to do? Did I have to mention the word pitch raise, voicing, regulation?
No, you didn't.
Hammers, hammer grooves, bridle straps, bushings, bridge, soundboard. No. But did my client understand better what their piano needs? Absolutely. So the biggest question is now, how much time do I have?
That's the biggest question.
Yes, that is the biggest question.
25 minutes.
25 minutes. I want to show you one thing quick before we talk about pricing, okay? This works really well with a spinet, okay? Let's take our spinet. Its musical potential arguably is somewhere north of a beginner student. Now, how easy it is to work on spinets? Spinets, yeah, it actually takes a unique skill level and more time. Time costs money. Arguably, spinets are going to require more restoration dollars than a grand because they're more of an unknown and they have more problems you're trying to solve. So, that's a problem. But let's say you have a spinet that's been neglected for, how long do spinets get neglected? Forever. Okay, so it might not be there, it might be way off the chart, right? Same pitch, same exact thing. Sally, you have a 1979 Wurlitzer spinet. Now, Wurlitzer was a company in the mid-70s that had good average manufacturing standards, and your piano was built for a beginner level student at about this level. Now, due to the years of neglect, One of the first things that I noticed about your piano, aside from being out of tune, I actually don't say neglect, scratch that. That's me being a bad salesperson, right? What did I say? Performance here, you know what, one of the first things I noticed, aside from being out of tune, this piano is really difficult from a touch and tone. Oh, what did I say? I see, I'm stumbling here. This is hard to do, right? All right, performing here, your piano, one of the first things I noticed, I'm gonna look in your eye, I'm used to looking in their eye. One of the first things I noticed about your Wurlitzer spinet organ is that aside from being out of tune, it really lacked the touch and tone I would expect of an instrument of this caliber. I just said the same thing about a spinet as I did a Steinway Grand. Is it true? Well, yeah. My expectations lower. Do they see that? Yeah. Well, on the chart they do. So it lacks it. Now, I can solve this for you, but we're talking about $8,000 worth of work. Now, I would love to tell you to invest that money in this piano, but I have to be honest with you. You told me Sally's been taking lessons for 3 years. She is already above a beginner student. And based off of the repertoire I saw on the piano when I was here, she's well above that. So we can invest $8,000 in this piano, but it really leaves a gap because Sally is being limited by this piano right now. So here's what I need to know. I need to know how you want to solve this. Same exact pitch, different outcome.
Yeah.
Proper outcome, instead of rebuilding, is
Buy a new piano.
buy a new piano. Your piano dealer will love you. You will be marching clients in left and right to buy a better piano. You will love yourself because your inventory that you manage will be better. Your life will improve, their life will improve, and you will be getting killer reviews online. Now, what if Sally doesn't have the money to invest in a brand new piano right now? Same thing. Well, how far can we get for the budget? Where does that move the needle? That might move the needle to right here, but it is not moving the needle all the way. So you need to buy a piano ASAP as soon as possible. You can sell $800, $900, $1,000, $1,200 of work on a spinet doing this, and it is justifiable because the cost of a new piano is $500, $600. Okay? Now, you get into gray area when you're talking about $2,000 of work for a minimum, right? If this is $8,000, the halfway point is probably $4K. Okay? So do the math. Where are you moving the needle? Okay? Now, if you're more efficient, you can lower that price and get a better outcome. That's the mark of a professional musician and a professional technician coming together. If you are really, really good as a technician, you can actually lower that price and get a better result, and that gives better value. You need to improve your services. You need to improve your skills. All right, it works. I guarantee you if they don't buy a piano today. Now, what if they don't have anything more than the couple $100 you said you come out for today? It's a tough situation, right? We have a consultation fee. Write that down. It's not a minimum service call fee. A consultation fee is our minimum service call fee. It's the minimum amount we will show up for. So what did we do today? Your piano can't be helped. It has terminal cancer. It is dying yesterday. I'm going to get a consultation fee for telling you that. Now, have I given you something no other technician has ever given you? Yes. Do you feel like it's worth it to pay me for this advice?
Yes.
Yes, because every other technician forever has been walking in and tuning the piano and never telling you that that's why Sally is complaining about music lessons. Now, I'm sure it's also because of all of the other character building that is going on in the house, right? All right. How many of you want to know exactly how much you need to charge for every single piano out there? All right, I can't answer that question for you, but I can give you some perspective. How many of you are RPTs already, registered piano technicians? Oh, good. How many of you are pursuing your RPT right now? Whoa! How many of you are either brand new or you're an associate and you just haven't started the process yet? Okay. All of you are better than the $70 tuner in your area right now, today. Okay? Start your exam today. You'll be better than them, all right? Okay, now the question is, what is my time worth? Piano technicians are known for charging appropriately for their services across the world. Oh, hold on. Where are my notes? No, that's not right. Sorry, we're not salespeople, we're not business people, we're artisans. Now, I'm not saying take your people to the cleaners, but I am saying pay the mortgage and pay the bill.
Yeah.
Do you know, as a family of 4, right now, my medical insurance cost every year out of pocket puts me out the possibility of $30,000 a year. So I have to earn $30,000 just to earn $1. If Congress currently passes what they're shenaniganing about right now, it will go up to 40, 45. That's what my dad made to support 7 kids. Now, I'm not here for a political discussion. I'm just here to say the cost of running a business today is different than it was 70 years ago. It's different than it was 30 years ago. It's different than it was 10 years ago. It is not the same. Now, with all due respect, the average age of the people walking the halls is 55, 56 right now. And if they're giving you advice about how they price their services when they got started and how they're pricing it now, it's skewed. I'm sorry, it's wrong. Your prices, your expenses are different. Why? They're on Medicaid. I'm not kidding. It's hard. So I have to earn $80,000 to $100,000 just to make a decent income for my family and save for the future. And that's after business expenses. Do you know how much it is costing me today to staff the overhead and the people and the marketing and the website of my business? North of $150,000 a year. So I have to earn $150,000 a year for my business before I get $1. And then, aside from the other people I employ, for me to earn $1, I have to earn $30,000. So now I have to produce $180,000 of revenue this year to be a self-employed person. And that's where I start earning money. That's sobering. That's a problem. That's a big problem. How am I solving it? Well, currently I have 4 technicians working with us. Now, $150,000 divided by 4, I think you can do the math, is about $30,000 a piece. So in order for us to earn money, we have to each cover about $30,000 of overhead, and then we have to each cover, X thousand dollars of whatever just to start earning us money. So once we get above about $60,000, we can start keeping the money for ourselves. Okay? So if I have a technician earning $100,000 of revenue, they can earn about $40,000 a year. If they're earning $150,000 of revenue, they can earn about $90,000 a year. Maybe if they're getting up into the $200,000, $250,000 range of revenue, they could earn a lot more, arguably, and I would be earning more because I'm taking a cut of profit share, a profit margin off the top. Now, how many of you have met a piano technician consistently doing $250,000 a year in revenue? Off of service, field service. 2, 3 people, year after year, sustained. How many of you met more than one person doing that? Oh no. Are they tuning 7 to 8 pianos, 9, 10 pianos a day to do that? The ones earning $250,000, most of them, if you really push them, they'll say, oh yeah, there are days I tune 10 pianos a day, right? My goal for my technicians is to do 2 to 3 appointments a day and bring in over $150,000 a year, but preferably $200,000, $250,000 a year off 3 appointments a day. Now, that sounds outrageous, but do you think we're doing it? Not yet. Sorry, I can't offer you a job today. I've been working my butt off for 15 years trying to do this. We're getting close. But it has taken a lot of innovation. It's taken working as part of a team. Am I confident that if I were to start today with what I know as a one-man show and do really, really well and earn above 6 figures? Absolutely, I could do it. I have a different mission. I want to really I want to empower the next generation and do that by leading the way. So that's why Well Up to Piano has multiple technicians. I could be earning more money as a one-man show right now than I could as a corporation because I wouldn't have the overhead. That's a sweet gig, okay? Now the question is price. How much do I charge? How much time do I have? 15 minutes. Woo. How many of you are worried about charging too much? How many of you feel like you need to charge more, but you can't because there are RPTs and really skilled people above you? Okay, I'm about to blow that out of the water for you and say forget about what they're charging. It's wrong because it's not you. Now, I've written articles and classes on how to figure out your pricing. That's a really important question. That's not this class. But price doesn't matter. How many pianos can you tune in a day and keep your sanity?
5.
5.
5.
4. 3. 5. Come on, I need numbers.
Every single day?
Every single day, 5 days a week. 4, 3, 3, 5. Anybody 6?
2.
Oh, the key is keeping your sanity, right?
Yeah.
We can tune more, but we're not going to keep our sanity. So we can't just tune till, if you're charging $100, you can't tune 10 pianos and say I'm going to earn $1,000 a day. So 3 pianos a day. If your tuning rate hypothetically was $200 a day, you can do 3 pianos a day. Your maximum daily rate is $600. What about 4 pianos a day?
800.
800. We got a big problem in this industry. People are historically charging not enough, and I can't change that. But I have to charge more to stay in business. So how do I solve that problem? Well, I provide a lot more value in my business. Go to my website. This is what we do. Okay? This is value that nobody else is doing. Hopefully, I hope to have about 30 people doing it now. Okay, so if I am doing 2 to 3 appointments a day, hypothetically, my average ticket price is $200. My daily rate should be
4 to 6.
wrong. $1,800, give or take. $1,600, $1,500, $2,000. Why? Well, call an HVAC technician out. They come out for $70, and they charge $100 an hour. So arguably, their hourly rate for an 8-hour day is $800. They tuck 90% of their profit margin into parts. Their hourly employees are being paid to sell parts, and they get away with it because of a lot of factors I can't get into. Now, if you're not rebuilding pianos, can you tuck your profit margin into parts? No. We don't. Our parts last hundreds of years. That's the problem. Now, maybe if you learn to voice and listen to the piano, you can actually tell them your hammers need to be replaced. Now I have parts. I can actually tuck some profit margin in there, right? That's a whole different story. But then you're in rebuilding. And many of you aren't in rebuilding. None of you raised your hand. So you have to figure out how to earn a daily rate that's going to get you up into the $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 a year. If you're working a same schedule, 8, 10-hour days for 240 days out of the year, $1,200 gets you there. But are you going to earn $1,200 a day consistently 5 days out of the week? No, there are going to be some days where if you're charging $200, you can only earn $600 because it was all just maintenance tunings then, right? So we got a problem. I have a $600 problem on average every single day. That adds up to a lot of dollars at the end of the year. So what I have to do is I have to sell a higher daily rate because I can only push my tuning price, my entry price, so far above everybody else. Now currently, this is one of the biggest problems in my business, okay? I've had to differentiate drastically because my price says I am radically different than everybody else, so I have to look radically different and be radically different than everybody else. My price is currently twice the most expensive technician in town. I'll let that sink in.
Wow.
There is a 100% gap between me and the next guy. Actually, somebody just entered town and saw what I was charging, so he closed that gap a little bit. It might be like 80% now. That's a huge gap. I am 3 to 4 times what some people charge for my base price. And my daily price is 10x what they charge per day. So it looks like on paper to a new customer, I'm 2x, but in reality I'm 10x. Why? Because I'm the consummate professional in the area. And by the time I enter your home, you know it. They're not doing what this is. They're not educating their clients. And if you push me, I would say there was a good argument that some of them are doing poor by their clients. I'm not going to speak bad about anybody because I can't help the education and the ambition that they have. I can only address me, and I know that if I'm going to be self-employed, I want to do the best work I possibly can, and I want to give people the best value I possibly can. So my problem in my business is I have to provide 10x value over everybody else. I'm doing it in a lot of ways. It's hard, but that's what's necessary. This is not what you need to do, this is the way you need to think. So when you think about your price, you need to figure out what that max daily price is. It's gonna be X of everybody else, and rather than saying, oh my goodness, how am I possibly gonna do that? I can't, nobody's gonna use me. Okay, I'm gonna stay where I'm at until I get my RPT, and then I'll go up a little bit. Because that's what the RPTs are charging. No.
Well, the trouble is, people are willing to drop $150 a crack for a concert ticket,
Yeah, and so here's how you look at that. All your clients in your entire market, this is gonna fudge a little bit, but 100% of people represented in your market fit into this circle. Now, if you're the highest priced technician, let's make it simple, by $1. You're $1 more expensive than everybody else in the area. 33% of people calling around are going to use you. Do you know why? They're value shoppers. They want the absolute best they can give. And if your marketing is decent and you're more expensive, they're gonna interpret wrongly that you're the best. But they make that correlation. The higher you are, the more they make that correlation, the more they start asking, justify it, show me you're the best, but if you can convince me you're the best, I'm gonna do business with you no matter what your price is. Now, these people are very wealthy, very wealthy. These are the people that are, I'll just leave it at very wealthy. It's dizzying how they make their money. But they're value shoppers. When they call around, they want the best value. Now, that doesn't mean the best tuner. That doesn't mean the best tuning. That doesn't mean the best voicing. It does. You have to have that. But it really means, I want you to respect my time. I want you to show up. I want you to show me that you know what you're doing. I want you to educate me well. Don't waste my time, and give my daughter the best you can possibly give her. That's what it means. Now, you have to know how to tune at a high level. You have to know how to voice at a high level. You have to know how to regulate at a high level to satisfy that. But if you do it right, you can, and you'll get there. Otherwise, you have to sub it out to people that do, and you have a guy who comes in for you. Okay, he's part of your network. He's part of what you're doing. So 33% of people are going to pick you purely because you're the most expensive in town. Now, the opposite is true. There are about 33% of people who are price shoppers. This is a personality type, not a reflection of their bank account or their earning potential. There are millionaires and billionaires in this category who will nickel and dime you all the way to the down. Okay, if somebody is less than you, they will go with him, period.
Right.
You cannot be cheap enough unless you're at the bottom. They don't go in the middle, they go to the bottom. So the problem is, can you ever capture all the customers?
No.
Not if there's competition. If you're a monopoly, you can, you're the only choice. But if there's competition and you're the most expensive, you're going to get about 33% of the customers. If there's two people, if one's expensive and one's not, the other will get about 33% of the people. And now we need another option in the market, right?
Yeah.
But if there's only two people, where do these people go?
Hard to say.
Yeah, they're swing shoppers.
They split? Did they split?
Yes. They split between the two. On what grounds? I'm getting some blank looks. And by the way, this isn't mine. All right, I found this on a TED Talk, and I cannot remember, it was years ago, who did that, but I can find the link if you want it. It was actually it wasn't a TED Talk, it was an HVAC training video. That's where it was at, and I saw that and I thought, whoa! I went to my database and I saw that 33% of the people we weren't catching. And I went, whoa, I don't have to worry about those three. Okay, so they're swing shoppers, what do? Well, back to our example earlier, if you want what I'm selling, even before you hear the price, are you going to find a way to do it? Yes. Even if it's only part of it, you're their guy. They're coming your way. So if you do this right, they're coming your way. What if they don't want it? They're not gonna do it. You can't do anything about it. They're gonna go to the next guy and they're gonna price shop you, and that guy's not gonna get what they want, because what they really want is you. Now, what if they have no money for what you're doing? They have to go this way. Do they want to go that way?
No.
No. When I give work away, I'm actually really passionate about this. When I see that situation, I will give them a lot of work. That's where I give my services away, because it makes a big difference. It's a family who literally has no money. They want the best for their daughter, and they cannot afford it in the hope of a spitting dream. Okay? So if you're gonna discount your services, do it there, not at the top. So, let's say that you are a killer. How many of you consider yourself Ed Tomlinson style salespeople? Oh, all right. Well, then you're losing that whole third. You gotta be a salesperson to get that third. These people, you don't have to sell. They want you because you're the best. That's not a sale. That's foregone conclusion almost. If you're a marginal salesperson, you'll start eating into this pie. If you're Ed Tomlinson, the best you can probably do is about 66% of cold calls coming in will fly your way. That's if you're a killer salesperson. I'm not a killer salesperson. I have way too much of a soft spot for people who can't afford my services. I don't like that I have to charge this much, but that's what's necessary to do the level of work I'm committed to doing. If you're an average salesperson, right about there. So that means every time the phone rings is half of the time you get the job and half of the time you don't. You're doing pretty expletive good. So a lot of people tell me I can't raise my price because half of the people won't use me. And I say, yes! That's it! That's it! You got it! And they look at me like, whoa, what?
Oh, raise your price so you don't have to do so much work.
Now, we leave this for all of the other people in the area who either don't understand it or aren't committed to doing high-level work. Now, you're going to ask me, well, what percent are you at? I'm right here. I am working my butt off to brand my company, to sell my company, to train my employees. We are putting in 150% effort. And this is where we're getting. This is not easy, but I can tell you it's worth it. Okay? Let's go back to, I only have a few minutes. So pricing, I think I've covered that well enough. There's some formulas you need to know and things like that, but that's a one-on-one conversation. It depends on whether you're on Medicaid or not, and whether you want to advertise or not, and whether you, oh, yeah, it's complicated. Website, do you need a website? Well, of course you do. You need a website to capture people into wherever it went, the circle, right? If you don't have a website, people aren't even coming in here. If you don't have social media, if you don't have Facebook, if you don't have things feeding you, if you don't have word of mouth reviews, okay? But you need to get your head around what your goal is and what you're trying to do. If you get your head around that, a lot of people come, I am starting a business, or I really want to get my business going, so I'm going to build a website. Good, you're going to have the same result you've had the last 10 years. You got to change what you're doing. You got to think differently, okay? So yes, you need a website. Do you need a Google Places account? Yes, you do. Absolutely. Do you need to get reviews? Yes. You know what? I really want to see piano technicians succeed. And I had a young strapling who I was considering hiring, and we had a conversation, and I think his goals were different than my goals, and that's cool. He wanted to be a self-employed person, and he felt like he could achieve what he wants to achieve financially doing so. And our philosophies were aligned, but deviating in some areas. Okay, that's cool, that's great. I gave him all the advice I could, right? And he copied what I was doing with AdWords and with marketing, and he would ping me. And I was open with him. Did I give him this class? No. Did I tell him how I look people in the eye to get reviews? No. But January, he started getting reviews. Now, you know Angie's List? I've got 400 reviews on Angie's List. They just changed their model. I lost all of them. Nobody can see them anymore. That sucks. Yeah. I made a bad decision. It's taken me a long time to break into Google, but that was where I got started with my reviews, so it is what it is. I have 100 Google reviews, or just about 100. He had 0. In 5 months, he has 67, 70 reviews. Now, is he tuning 50 pianos a week? No. Is he being really efficient getting people to get reviews? Yeah. He's actually killing it. He's going to surpass me. Am I concerned? No. Because he's going to start taking all the first calls now. And I'm like, yes! I don't have to take the price shoppers anymore, right? But people are going to continue calling around, and I'm still going to get the value shoppers because I'm the higher price, and I'm always going to be the higher price. I'm going to be the better value. That's my commitment. I'm going to be the better value, and that's how I'm going to beat them. Well, it's not really beating them. It's just I'm not worried about going out of business because he surpasses me on reviews. Is it going to mean that I have to fight harder to differentiate my services from him? Yes. I'm fighting, okay? But at the same time, he is killing it. Do you know how? Morgan, would you please give me a review? I just really need to build my business. I need a review. I will even sit down at a computer after I'm done tuning, help you log in, and help you give a 5-star review. He is working his tail off. He can't do that forever. He's going to get up above me, and then he's going to realize his phone starts ringing, his schedule's going to fill up, and then he's going to slack off. And then I'm just going to rabbit versus hare. I've got multiple technicians. He has one. I'm going to win the review game. I'm cool.
It'll probably take 3 or 4 years for that to pan out, though.
Yeah, it will, and I'm okay with that. So I am happy to answer questions. We're out of time. Would you do me a favor before you leave? They really want you to fill out the forms, but I'm happy to answer questions as you do that. So feel free to ask if you want me to answer them while you're doing that.